Morning. In today's content, I'll be talking about mentions of assault, both physical, abuse, harassment, and sexual content that might be otherwise unsuitable for anyone below the ages of 18 or might be triggering. Viewer discretion is advised. Alright, you finally find the game you want. You've been searching and searching through your game store. You haven't really come across much, so you're struggling. So you go online, because you know that you have a better chance of finding a D&D game that you want to play. Sounds easy enough. You go to Reddit, you look through many Reddit pages, and many forums later, you finally find a game. Let's say it's Wednesday at night, after work. You're ready to go, you've been talking to some of the players, you've been talking to the DM, you're having a blast. You've talked about your hobbies. You say you're into anime, you say you're into tabletop games, you like both of those topics, you watch some of your classics, Dragon Ball. It's all good. You and your group are having a pretty decent time getting to know each other. And then you have those people who also like anime. I'm not talking the folks who watch it casually or even folks who watch it often. We're talking about those people. You know, the ones who for some reason love to bring up some of the cringiest stuff in the fandom into your D&D conversation. And eventually your game, that was supposed to be safe for work, devolves into some level of degeneracy that even you don't want to describe to your friends. You leave the game, and guess where you're at? Back at square one. Unfortunately, anime and D&D seem to never work together, and there are a lot of horror stories about the not very good relationship that these two have together. So today, I'll be talking about why anime and D&D never seem to work together, and how you and others can include it in your game, both as players and as the game master. So, why exactly is anime and D&D often at ends of each other? Well, there are a lot of anime fans who play D&D and Dungeons & Dragons. Usually when you look up anime and D&D, you're gonna get a lot of results with cringe stories and all of these tales of players or GMs, including content that's otherwise unsavory for the players or requires players or the game master to stop running or playing the game. Usually, it's a combination for the GM or players who have a lack of social skills, a lack of barriers, and don't realize that anime, especially the ones they pull from, whether it be harems or shonen, or whatever genre, are very different in terms of the approach of storytelling than, say, a tabletop RPG. This is all to say that anime and D&D don't always work together because they're two different mediums, and the approach of storytelling is going to be wildly different. And also, the fandom has a lot of interesting people with interesting concepts and ideas. That combination of two things is what makes it otherwise a tense topic, to say the least. So, because anime is kinda cringe and is a sensitive topic because of the amount of horror stories that are out there, it's no surprise that game masters or dungeon masters or players alike usually try to avoid fanatic anime fans or those who are really into anime, because it can really be a turnoff for a lot of people. Because like I said before, the anime protagonist or anime genre doesn't always mix with player characters in a tabletop RPG. And that's honestly because of what I call the anime protagonist syndrome. The anime protagonist syndrome is one that revolves around the main character. It's essentially a main character syndrome. You, as the player character, believe the entire story, world, characters, and plot revolves around your PC rather than, well, the collective actions and experiences of everyone at the table, including the game master. And the problem with that is because you're hogging the attention away from other players and you're not giving people the chance to be creative and explore the characters they want. When you're pulling all that away, you end up spoiling people's fun and creating an otherwise unfun environment at the table. And no one plays a tabletop game because they don't want to have fun. Plus, usually you have these people who want to try to make these overpowered characters, which kind of ruins the minutiae of the game, which kind of sucks. So those combination of things create a really not cool scene for anyone who likes anime or likes tabletops. Alright, we get that the anime protagonist syndrome is an issue, and that anime and tabletop games don't always fit on the same line simply because they have two different creative directions, and the mediums in which they're taking place are going to differ. One is a creative shared experience of a group, and another one is through, well, professional creative directors on a great story. We understand that, so how can we include anime elements as player characters and dungeon masters? Well, for PCs, the best way to do that, I think, is to ask what your fellow players are comfortable with. You can put in silly or ridiculous archetypes or jokes or references, but you definitely want to ask your players what they are comfortable with. You don't want to make some reference or joke about a tentacle monster, especially if, say, I don't know, one of your players has some kind of trauma related to that. I don't know. Just communicate what you want, communicate what's comfortable, and communicate what you don't want to have in your game. Because you don't want to have your friends and other players uncomfortable because you're making ridiculous or weird plot points or references. As for game masters, that is an entirely different issue. Well, kinda. I think the best way is include anime elements into your NPCs, the world you're building, or you can include supplementary material that allows you to have anime-esque elements. For example, let's say you want to base one of your characters off Goku, for instance. You can do that. An NPC that's kind of like Goku is not out of imagination, and I think it's a perfect way to use your creativity and influence from other mediums in your game. Also, I mentioned homebrewing worlds or supplements. It's Dungeons & Dragons. There are plenty of supplements out there. A list of them are going to be down in the description box below, but here are some that I think you might like. That list includes, but it's not limited to, Tenor Bancho, Zero Heaven and Earth, the anime role-playing game, Big Eyes, Small Mouth, Legend of the Five Rings, Exalted, and the well-known and most recent one, Anime 5e. These are a list of some supplemental material, new games, or attachments to Dungeons & Dragons that you can try. They're not given in any particular order, but it helps to have this kind of list to begin so that you're not scrambling to find something, especially if you're an avid anime fan like myself. Simple takeaway, use discretion and some common sense, or at the very least, ask before you do something so you don't create some uncomfortability at the table. In fact, what's a time where you had to deal with someone who's interested in anime in your game, and you didn't quite know how to navigate that? Let me know down in the comment section below. Or if you're an anime fan, how have you used anime to inspire your game? Whatever it is, let me know down in the comment section below. I'm your host, Blurdy Disposition, and I hope you all have a great day. Keep on rolling. Ciao!